We good? Yes, in 2 minutes, bismillah. Huh? Yes, go ahead. Yes, in the Shafii you only do 4 times. Surah Al-Hijrah, when you go into ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamida. Those 3 times. And then the fourth time will be when you sit the first sitting after the second rak'ah, at-tahiyyatu, the first one, the first at-tahiyyatu. So you say Allahu Akbar. That's when you raise the 4 times. Yes. Sami Allahu liman hamida. Yes, yes. Four. 4 times. That included. Those included. So four. Yes. Yes, when you say Sami Allahu, no, when you say Allahu Akbar from the yes, beginning the third rak'ah in Maghrib and all the except Fajr. So for the rest, in the third rak'ah you say Allahu Akbar. That's how I know you're a Shafi'i. Huh? The four for the Shafi'is, yes. The four for the Shafi'is. So any questions regarding any of the other stuff? We better start in a minute. So if you have questions. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Oh, is that your office? We can hear. I'm kidding. No. But there's no coffee. So I don't know how. Any questions from previous classes or? It doesn't affect you? It does? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Book of Prayer. We've been here now. This is week 24.
Fasting.
No, fasting we finished.
Oh yeah, you're right. That was the last one.
Yes, fasting we stopped the book of prayer and went to the book of fasting because the book of fasting is one of the shortest book in the ibadat of Shafii Fiqh. And secondly, we were just beginning the month of Ramadan. It was about 4 weeks out when we started, right? So and then we started that, and alhamdulillah we were able to at least implement what we learned. Now the book of prayer, we are still in the book of prayer and we have a long way. We have at least, like I'll say, another 4 to 5 weeks to be in the book of prayer. Last week we covered Sujdatu Sahwu. We covered Sujdatu Sahwu, and I will recap. To Sahwu, we only make in case of if I make an addition in the Salah, or if I subtract something from the, or if there's certain unique instances that occur. One, when I make an addition, how? For example, I pray a rak'ah without one of its rukun, right? For example, I prayed one rak'ah and I only did one sujood. Usually in a rak'ah, sujood is 2. So, for me, I need to repeat the rak'ah, right? Because I missed a pillar, a rukun. So now if you count the rak'ah that I've made mistake in it, it's counted as ziyada, it's counted as an addition. So that will necessitate me to make sajda to sahwi. 1. 2. Instruction. If I omit something from only the ab'ad, we mentioned that in the Shafi'is we categorize the prayer to be from the pillar, the main pillar, right? If I miss a pillar, my entire prayer is invalid. And then we have something called main sunnah. If you're a Shafi'i, especially a student, you have to memorize them in Arabic because it will make sense in Arabic. It's called ab'ad. And in the Shafi'is, ab'ad are only 4. These are the 4 things that will require you to make sajda to sahwi. 1. If I get or omit jalsa, or the first tashahhud, right? The first tashahhud, that's rak'ah number 2 in all the prayer except Fajr, right? So rak'ah number 2, if I forget the sitting and tashahhud, then I should not say required, I'm recommended, I should be specific with my word, make sajda to sahwi because it's a sunnah. 2, if I miss Allahumma salli ala Muhammad in that specific sitting. 3, if I miss the salah upon Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam in the last rak'ah, that can all the prayers. If I miss Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, this part is ab'ad. If I miss it, my prayer, I need to make sajda. And then number 4 is qunut in Fajr. For it to make sense, you have to watch last week's video because we went into depth. But that is the summary of, and then we talked about the different scenario. What if I came late and the Imam made a sajda to sahwi of a mistake that I wasn't present? Let's say he made a mistake in rak'ah number 1 and number 2. And. Right? We talked about all those scenarios that occur. And if you have a question, maybe I can take them at the end. But today we're going to cover now another sujood. So there's different types of sujood. Other than the sujood that we require to make. One is sajda to sahwi, we spoke about it last week. Another one is sajda to tilawa. Sometimes when you recite the Quran or when you pray Taraweeh and the Imam suddenly he recites a verse and then he says Allahu Akbar. And instead of people going into ruku, they go directly into sujood. And he says Allahu Akbar, he comes up and he continues reciting. So that's what we call sajda to at-tilawa. And if you open the Quran, it has some shape, like, I don't know what that shape is called, but it has some, like a little masjid, little window, like a little arrow kind of thing. Yes, that is another indication that this is sajda, it's a place for me to make sajda to tilawa or the Quran recital prostration. First of all, we take that from the hadith of Ibn Umar and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam قال كان يقرأ القرآن. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to recite the Quran, and when he comes to the surah that has this sajda to tilawa, then he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will prostrate, right? Will prostrate. And this is the hadith that we all know. So what is the hukum of sajda to tilawa? What is the legal ruling? What is the hukum of sajda to tilawa? If you come across an ayah, what am I required to do sajda to tilawa, or am I recommended to do sujood, or am I encouraged to do sujood? What you think is recommended? No, I gave option. I said, am I required or recommended? Okay, excellent. So there's a difference, okay? If it's in salah, outside salah, give me both differences. It's salah is recommended. Outside salah, recommended too, okay? Wajib in salah and recommended outside. Okay, but even outside salah will be, or am I hearing somebody who's reading? Or right? So we're gonna go over those. So let's see who got right and who got wrong. It's recommended. Ask after. After at the end. Don't forget the question. Yes. So it's recommended for one reciting the Quran, whether or not he is in prayer. In prayer, this.
So when I was reading Quran, I have to do it.
It's encouraged for you to do. If you don't do it, then yes.
Okay.
Right? Number two, for the one who's listening, so you listen to a qari, you recommended for you to do it. Or you hear the Quran, it's recommended for you to do it. Or now, for example, you're listening to the Quran. Abdurrahim is reciting the Quran. And he recited the Sajda to Tilawa, maybe he did sujood or not. It doesn't matter what he did. But Ana, if I hear it, I'm recommended to do the sujood. If he does it, I'm still to do it. If he doesn't do it, I'm recommended to do it. But if there's an instance that now Sajda to Tilawa, just like Sajda to Sahwu, sometimes in specific instances, it becomes wajib. When does it become wajib? Huh? Behind an imam. Excellent, mashallah. If you're praying behind an imam and the imam himself performs it. For the imam, it is what? Recommended. Imam, it's recommended. For the ma'muma. People. Because now at that moment, it becomes rukun. Because we are supposed to to follow the imam. And we spoke about this. We brought the hadith last week. The imam is to be followed. So whatever imam does, we have to follow him. So for us, it becomes wajib, and for the imam. But what if now for the imam it's what? Recommended. For the imam did not go into sujood. For me, can I go into sujood tilawa? Haram. Absolutely. Right? It's prohibited. It's haram. So now, for example, you're leading me in salah. You read and you did not go and I go. Guess what will happen to my salah? Batil. Purpose. If I do forgetfully.
Yeah, like, sometimes you can't see the imam,
Yes. If I do forgetfully, out of my knowledge, then I will do sajda to sahwu. Because it's a ziyada.
What is the opposite, because sometimes they go in sajda, but people don't know it's high sajda, they go to
The ruku.
and then they,
Yeah.
because they didn't follow.
They didn't follow, but they didn't know. So at that moment, they will do the sajda to sahwu. If again, at that moment they are no longer accountable because they didn't know. And this happens a lot. Because the Imam says Allahu Akbar. That's why encouraged for when he knows that, especially in Taraweeh. Because you know that, okay, in Raka'ah number 2 or in Raka'ah number 1, we're going to reach the ayah of Tilawa. Then when I say Allahu Akbar, we're going to prostrate. If it's Raka'ah number, you tell them it's in Raka'ah number 1, or if it's Raka'ah number 2, you tell them. Good to give people that heads up. And when you say that Allahu Akbar, take a little bit longer so that people can figure out. If people are a little bit slow, take a little bit longer. These are some of the hacks that you can help people not to, but the people still will have to do because they have done 2 ruku. The Allah Akbar, and then they figure everyone is in sujood. Right, so Allah Ta'ala accept all our prayers. Sajda to sahu, because the ziyada now we spoke about last week on different scenarios. That applies there. When can I make sajda to tilawa? Last week we spoke about when can I make sajda to sahu? Where can I make sajda to sahu? When? Yes. At what place? At what time?
At the end of the prayer, after the salam.
After the salam? Bro, don't bring your Hanafi baggage here. Yeah, you bring your baggage, you're over.
Sorry, I just remembered.
Yes. So to be specific, is after the tashahud, before the salam. What about the sajda to tilawa? When can I make them? If you forget, what is the hukum? What is the hukum? Recommended. If I forget, I forgot. Right? So when can I make it? Immediately after I finish the verse. Right? Immediately, for example, the verse stops, for example, wala dhalin, and then amin. That moment you will say amin, just imagine that I'm doing sujood at that moment. For the sujood where the ayahs require. But what if now is that, can I delay it? Can I delay it? Yeah, I can delay it. But I cannot delay it more than it takes for me to perform 2 rak'ah. How much 2 rak'ah take? About 4, max 4 minutes. Let's say max 5 minutes. Estimation, max 5 minutes. Then if that period is of 5 minutes, the grace period, after that, there's no makeup for it. I missed it. And this is a scenario where, for example, I was driving, I heard you recite, and then, 3 minutes, I just packed in that hijrah, I can come and make sajda too. Right? That is the scenario that can be realistic for us. So if one reads the verse in the prayer and does not prostrate, again we say it's recommended. Somebody might forget, somebody purposely did not do it. One can prostrate after finishing the prayer if the interval is short. And we talked about this. What is going to define the shortness of interval? What is this classified as short interval? The short interval is classified as, remember when we spoke about the hadith of Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, when we spoke about the hadith of Dhul Yadayn, right? The Prophet ﷺ prayed 2, and that's the same hadith for Sajda to Sahu. The Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 rak'ah, and then he salamed, he finished his prayer. And then Dhul Yadayn asked, Ya Rasulullah, is the prayer, has it been or you forgot? And then the Prophet answered him, none of this happened. And he asked the companions, did this happen? He asked, no, the Prophet said, Asadaqa Dhul Yadayn. Is Dhul Yadayn speaking the truth? They said yes. So the Prophet stood up and finished the remainder of the 2 rak'ah. So that is the interval that we're talking about, short. Maybe we'll say a minute. It's 6 words that the Prophet ﷺ spoke. And that's why when the Shafi'is, they say, you have a grace period of what? If you're talking the Salah, intentionally or unintentionally, you have 6 words. And where do they take that from? The istidlal is they use the dalil of Dhul Yadayn. Okay, so that short interval is still taken from that hadith. And secondly, the aada, just like here, the normal norm. Like for example, we agree that, 2 rak'ah will take us 5 minutes. And everyone agrees, right? Most at most. will take 5 minutes. And everyone agrees. So that then becomes the standard for us. Any questions so far? Clear? Everyone is clear? You have fishak? Huh? Provided you're listening to it. It can be a tape, it can be an individual, it can be in salah, outside salah. The person did sujood, did not do sujood.
How about you're praying and someone else is reciting? Do you do a sajda in your prayer?
No. Yes, no. Wow, man. Wow. This kid. Wow. I'm not going to do it that moment because what am I doing? I'm going to do ziyada in my prayer. Okay. Yeah, right? So I'm not able to do it. And at that moment, it's actually not, it's haram. If you're praying sunnah, then you can do it, but you need to do sunnah because you added. Because what I'm saying, sunnah is extremely lenient. Sunnah, I can sit and pray. Right? Sunnah, I can sit and pray. بغير يعني عذر, without excuse. But wajib, I cannot. And that we take from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. We used to pray on his riding camel, right? Yes, witr, and right. So we take that and we qiyasan, analogically, we just add those. But that's an excellent question that I did not think about. But yeah, that's good. What if one is in a state of major or minor hadith? Because the one of the conditions of making sajda to sahwu or sajda to shukr or sajda to tilawa is the same condition as the salah. Meaning, I have to be in a state of purity from both major and minor. I have to be in a state of tahara, meaning, i.e., I have to be in wudu. The place that I'm making sujood has to be clean. My cloth has to be clean. Right? All these conditions apply here. So, when an individual is in a minor hadith, they don't have wudu, and they hear that, can they make sajda to tilawa? Maulana. No, they cannot. But, let's say he went to take wudu within a grace period of 5 minutes. Can he make them now? But if he missed the grace period, can they make up sajda to tilawa? No, they cannot. The same applies for major hadith. Right? If they're in major or minor, yes. 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 Yes, you can make tayammum to do it, yes.
Because you're late. Or the 5 minutes will go.
Or the 5 minutes will go, yes. And this is, what is the, adatan, what is the hukum?
I mean, that's
Sunnah, recommended. For if it's something is recommended, what is going to be, the sharia is going to be lenient, unlike wajib. Even salah, for example, masala. Somebody is not in the Shafii, but in other schools, let's say, for example, the prayer is about to leave. Even in the Shafii, the prayer is about to leave. Because of the hurma of the time, just for me to honor the time, I will have to make tayammum and pray. But I have to make it up. Yes, for us. I have to make it up. Right? But I can make tayammum. Right? You gotta come every class, man. You ask questions. MashaAllah.
One time I saw a sheikh, he did like tayammum to like make dua, I don't know.
MashaAllah. Adab. 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 So now I have another question. Now, for example, there is sajda to raka'ah or somebody writing, and he recites multiple verses of sajda to tilawa. Right? So am I required to make sajda to tilawa for every verse that? Huh? Huh? It's recommended. But no, he read Sa'ad. The Shafis, we don't count that, but anyways, let's say Surah to Sa'ad, the one in Al-Hajj, or let's take the one in Al-Hajj, he read both of them. He read the first one and he read the second one. He read two different verses. So, can I make them? For both of them, I need to make separate. Yes.
Well, what if you're, learning Quran and 30 kids are repeating the same ayah?
MashaAllah. What did we say?
10 times.
What did we say the hukum is?
So I should do 300 sajdas.
No, but the thing is, are they reciting the same verse?
Yeah, because they're like practicing.
Yes. For the same verse, one yakfi.
Oh, per verse.
For the same verse, one is enough.
Okay.
But I'm talking about a different verse.
Okay.
Different verse? He's trying to catch me.
No,
But it's good. It's good. I like the questions. MashaAllah, I love the
I've
questions.
been in a city more like they're doing like the end of the Quran.
Yes.
And they have like the iftar, like the beginning.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like, oh, it's 1,000 people. But
If you pay attention, Allah the alaq sujuda tilawa. A lot of people don't make. Purposely sometimes. So for each, if he recites two different surahs in the same rak'ah, he has to make both. If he comes to, right, if he reads two sajdas in the same rak'ah, it's two different, he will make for both. But what if he keeps repeating the one is enough for it. Right, yeah. He keeps repeating the same ayah. Yes.
if it's 10 people reciting the same ayah, is it 10?
So again, what will guide us? One, it's recommended.
Yeah, but would it be recommended for 10 though?
But they are reciting the same verse though, all of them. So I've already did one, which is qiyasan yakfi for all of them. Because we are all in the same what? In the same sitting. I didn't leave this room and went. So if I go to maybe 10 different rooms, maybe I need to do 10 different sajdas. But the thing again, you will say, are they reciting the same verse and is it within the time?
Of the same.
Is it interval?
Okay.
Yeah. MashaAllah. Yes.
Are you going to demonstrate some of these different case scenarios?
Which different scenarios?
All these scenarios.
No. Because me describing them is actually as performing. Because the sujood to tilawa is only one sujood. One regular sujood that you made in Asr. Unless I didn't pray Asr. Unless you didn't pray Asr. Then we have a totally different issues than the tilawa issue. Right? But is it you understand? For all these scenarios, I only need to make one sujood. It's literally. And I will show you what are the rukun and what are the sunan. Right? What if I keep repeating the same verse we talked about it in the same sitting? The same sitting. We keep repeating the same verse then. How do I perform it? Now we said it's either I will read it in prayer, there's a different way to perform it, and outside the prayer. For example, in this sitting is outside the prayer. If somebody recites it, what do you guys think are the rukun? What are the arkan? What do you guys think? Yes, how do you perform it? What are the rukun? What are the arkan for wudu? Go back to purification. In the Shafii Fiqh, how many are there? Intention, okay, one.
That was my contribution.
Yes, everyone gotta say one. Okay, intention, great. What are the faraid of wudu? We want to get the tahara. We're not in yes. So how intention, one, that I need to make wudu. That's the first one. Yes, sir. Washing the face, great, you right. Washing the hands and include, yes, great. Uh-huh. Huh? Okay, yeah? Your hair, nice. Okay, people be making wrong wudu.
No, that actually,
Yeah, nice.
just like one.
One is enough. Yes, sir. Or three, depending. Three, but one is enough. Feet up to the and including the ankle, and then the tartib 6. What are the faraid of now sajda to tilawa? Outside the prayer. I'm making, like for example now, you recited, so there's some arkan and there's some sunan. One. Make always as a Shafi anything to do with ibadah, just say make intention. Right? So I am making the intention of making sajda to sahwu. Sajda to tilawa, of course. 2, you perform takbir when standing or sitting. Or either I'm standing or I'm sitting, it doesn't matter. I'll say Allahu Akbar.
Oh, so you don't have to get up?
No, I don't have to get up. Yeah. Because I'm making sujood anyway, right? I have to perform one whose condition is the same as those of the prayers. Right? Make for the sajda. We talked about how to make sujood. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So that's the hadith of the Ibn Umar that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam يقرأ علينا القرآن فإذا مر بسجدة كبر. When he now comes upon this sajda to tilawa, he kabbar, he says the takbir, wasajad, and he will make the sujood. Wasajadna, and them, they follow through, they follow suit. Making one salam without reading the testification of faith. So, literally, you say Allahu Akbar, sujood, right? And then I can get up. But it's sunnah to say Allahu Akbar, get up, and then Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, right? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. But I just say Assalamu alaikum. So that is the minimum. What are the sunnah now? Saying the intention, talaffuz. We covered that before. Raising the hand while saying the opening takbirah, Allahu Akbar. Like you have a lot of questions. Saying takbir while moving down to prostrate. Meaning, Allahu Akbar, right? But that is the first one. Allahu Akbar, I stood or I was sitting. And then Allahu Akbar to yani, for changing the motion. But I cannot raise my hand at that moment. I will perform it. To say the following, there's a dua that you make. There's different multiple du'as. There's multiple du'as, but I have one that I selected. Right? Or it's sufficient for you to say that which you say in prayer. And what do we say in prayer? When you're doing sujood? Huh? Yes. I can say that. Subhana Rabbi al-Ala. Yes, I can say that. But there's a specific dua for it, but there's multiple du'as actually. But if somebody doesn't know those du'as, they can say what? That which they say in their prayer. Saying the takbir when getting up now. Allahu Akbar. And then making the second salam. Is this clear? Yes. It's outside, again, we're talking about outside prayer. Outside prayer, yes. Yes. Musalla, I will do it.
Do you have to face the Qibla?
It's encouraged for you to face the Qibla. The condition, one of the conditions you have to face the Qibla.
So
It's a condition, it's a rukn. Yes. We're not to do the shukr yet. We will do it now. I will do it right now. Okay? So quick, let's go for the intentions. We'll do the first one first. Right? We'll do the the pillar, the arkan first, and then I will do both combined later on. So right, so now I'm reading the verse of that, right, Surah Al-Hajj, I read, and then now I hear somebody or I read it myself, I'm outside prayer. I will say, now I will make the intention. What intention am I making? I want to make sajdatu at-tilawa, and then either I'm standing or sitting, I'll say Allahu Akbar, raising my hand. Allahu Akbar. And then I'm making the sujood. Right? I'll either say the dua or I'll say whatever I say in the prayer. And then I will get up. Assalamu alaikum. I'm done. Shafii will say Assalamu alaikum. Wa rahmatullahi sunnah. You didn't come to the beginning of book of prayer. You know, that's the problem. Watch the previous video. Assalamu alaikum. That is fard. Wa rahmatullah sunnah. Assalamu alaikum sunnah. Wa rahmatullah sunnah. And when we say sunnah here, we're talking about hayat. Because we have two types of sunnah in the Shafis. Right? So, at-tahiyatu, this I'm talking about irregular prayers. Now, in regular prayers, at-tahiyatu rukun. It's a arkan. Salawatul Ibrahimiyya is arkan. Right? After that, I am done. I will make my du'as. And then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Now, this wa rahmatullah on the right is what? Sunnah. But the first Assalamu alaikum is what? In the Shafis, we say Assalamu alaikum in the front, not on the side. In the fard. Now, let's go back to the big Sajdatul Tilawa. Now, where it's fard, I will say 1. Where it's sunnah, I will say 2. Okay? Where it's fard, I will say 1. Where it's sunnah, I'll say 2. So the making the intention is 1. Me now, at-talaffud bin-niyyah. And every time you come to my class, I'm talking about the same concept of uttering the niyyah. Yes. So uttering the niyyah, saying the niyyah is sunnah in the Shafi'i school. Right? I intend, now it's Sajdatul Tilawa. Simple. I intend to make Sajdatul Tilawa. And then I will say Allahu Akbar is 1. But I can raising my hand now. Allahu Akbar is what? Number 2, sunnah. And then I can just go into sujood. But when I say Allahu Akbar now, moving is sunnah. Number 2. I will make my sujood, which is now the fard. And then I will either say the dua that we're gonna share, or I will just say whatever you say in prayer usually. And then I will say Allahu Akbar to move from sujood to sitting position. And then I will say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah sunnah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah sunnah. Simple. Outside prayer, Sajdatul Tilawa. And it is what? What is the ruling of Sajdatul Tilawa? Sunnah. Great. You read the, yes, you're reading the Quran, or you hear, we spoke about this, we read in the Quran. When you're sitting, and we said the same thing. You're either standing, or let's say I was sitting, I was just chilling. And then he read Surah Al-Hajj. I'll say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Simple. But only the first takbir was Allahu Akbar, you see? I left my hand, Allahu Akbar. And I was sitting. Okay. Any questions? Simple. Anyone wants to read the dua for us? And this is the part of the dua in the long hadith in Al-Bukhari. The hadith of Sayyidina Ubay. Right? It's an extremely long hadith. But part of one of the dua, because there's multiple du'as. Anyone wants to help us? Allah maktub li biha indak. Oh Allah, record for me ajran, record for me reward. Meaning, I was reading the Quran. Ya Allah, I came across this prostration, and I prostrate none other than you. I'm only prostrating for Allah. In that, then grant me whatever you find befitting for me. وَدَعَنِّي بِهَا وِزْرًا. And Ya Rabb al-Alameen, for me, remove a sin for me by it. I'm saying for Ya Rabb al-Alameen, by it, just pardon me. وَجَعَلْنَهَا لِي عِنْدَكَ ذُخْرًا وَتَقَبَّلْهَا مِنِّي كَمَا تَقَبَّلْهَا مِنْ عَبْدِكَ Dawood. And store it away for me with you, like keep it with you. And is there any safer store than our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, and accept from me? Is there anyone who is going to accept from us except him subhanahu wa ta'ala? And as you've accepted from your worshipper Dawood alayhi salatu wa salam. Right? So you can either do that, or and then there's another hadith of Ibn Abbas that an individual had a dream under the shade, and then the individual recited the same dua. Okay. Now, how to inside the prayer? Now we talk about Sidatul Tilawa again. How do I perform it? So for the one praying, if I'm praying by myself or I am the Imam, I am required to make the intention, but silently. I'm required to make the intention silently. Remember, it was a sunnah before outside to the prayer to say it, talaffuz, but in the prayer I am required to say it silently. Okay? But for who is behind the Imam, it's not fard for him to make the intention, even though it's fard for him or her to follow the Imam in Sajdatul Tilawa. But the intention making of it, it's just recommended. But in making the sujood itself becomes fard upon them. So when now you're praying, there's no need to say takbiratul ihram, the opening takbirah. The only takbirah you're making is the takbirah that you going down into sujood. Right? Right? And when you're getting up as well.
Even though it says silent, do you still have to utter it, or can you just be like?
No, you don't utter it. You don't utter it. This is silently. The uttering is for the other one. Right? The uttering is for when you are outside the prayer. Any questions? It's simple. Even in the prayer we've done it a lot of times. The only new thing that some of us have learned is something to do outside the prayer. Inside it we've already did it, alhamdulillah. Any questions? Alhamdulillah. So these are usually in the normal Quran. If you open the normal Quran, you'll find 15 Sajdatul Tilawa. But in the Shafi'is, we have only 14, 1-4. Right? We have only 1-4. And all of them are those ones. You can take the picture. But there's one missing. Let's see who can catch it. And by the way, both in Hajj is there for us. The hadith of Ibn Abbas. We are both in Hajj. Even though the hadith says there is 15 Sajdatul Tilawa, and he says both of them are in Hajj. The Shafi'is, they count that specific one that is missing from here to be a different type of sujood, which we're going to talk about. But which one is missing? Ya Ikhwanna. Surah Sa'ad, mashallah, yes. Surah Sa'ad, ayah 24 is the one which is missing. This for us is not Sajdatul Tilawa. This is when Sayyidina Dawud we think this is Sajdatul Shukr for us. This for us is sajda to shukr, not sajda to tilawa. Now, for example, if you're a strict Shafi'i, because the other madhahib they uphold this, and the Imam when he makes sajda to tilawa for this in salah, I will be, inshallah, do taqleed of his madhab. But let's say we are all Shafi'is. We are all Shafi'is 100%. Can I make sajda to tilawa for this in the prayer? Shafi 100%. And I am the Imam, for example, masalan. I am the Imam. And I came to Surah to Sa'ad, number 24. I made sajda to tilawa. Is my prayer valid? I do not do sajda to sahwi. My prayer is invalid. My prayer is invalid. Fada, this is sajda to shukr, not sajda to tilawa, according to the Shafi'is. Alright? Right? Again, we talk about Shafii Fiqh. Let's keep it Shafii. This is sajda to sahwi. It's forbidden for me to offer it, to do it in salah.
So you have to redo the salah?
Yes, if I do it intentionally. If I forget, that's a totally different thing. But even if, let's say, for example, but now I'm following a different imam of a different school, and the imam now does the sajda, does that mean that my prayer as a Shafi is invalid? No. Why? Because if it's valid according to his madhab, my madhab is allowed to follow him.
Can you follow the same thing as the sajda sahwi that we talked about the other day? Like, for example, with Hanafi?
Yes.
Sajda sahwi?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We wait.
Now we wait. But can we follow them? Yes. Because it's authentic in the madhab. I personally, if Hanafi leads me, I'll do exactly what he does. There's one thing of theory fiqh and there's application of fiqh. Remember when in the beginning of fiqh we said there is the text of the Quran. There's the way to understand it, understanding it, and there's the way to implement it. The practicality of it. Right? So now when the Imam is making sajda to tilawa for Sa'ad 24 and I'm a Shafi, I wouldn't be just standing there. I don't know if they do that, then that means they have not studied indeed. Because studying should make you lenient, more open. Because you know, okay, in my madhab it's not, but in their madhab it is. Guess what? We'll do what he says. Fahem to say? Okay? Any questions about? But I am encouraged to perform it. It's encouraged to perform it outside. Kharij as-salah. Outside the prayer, I am required. Because why? It's sajda to shukr. And sajda to shukr comes about. But before that, do we have any questions about sajda to tilawa? Yes, please. I don't know. Mashallah. Right there. I say, I don't know. Mashallah, we have a mufti here, or backup. Mashallah. The prostration of thankfulness. Saying thank you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sajda, shukr. And this is Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu doesn't narrate a lot of a hadith. Right? So Sayyidina Abu Bakr or Bakra does not narrate a lot of hadith. I don't know. Actually, I have to check that. A different one? I think so, yes. Maybe. But this specific Sahaba does not narrate a lot of hadith. Either of them. So, either the Khalifa, Sayyidina Amirul Mu'mineen, or the Bakra. I have to check. But neither of them narrate a lot of hadith. One of the hadith that they narrate is that the Prophet ﷺ, that when he ﷺ, when pleasure, when he hears good news, something good that happens to him, then he prostrate himself. Why? Because he wants to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we have the hadith of Ka'b, that the Prophet ﷺ, time he made a sujood, the shukr, that he thought he died. He did this for a long time. That he, Sayyidina Ka'b, thought he ﷺ passed away. So he was worried. And he comes closer to him ﷺ. And then this Prophet ﷺ got up. Right? So we are encouraged to do sajda to sahu, sajda to shukr. Right? We're encouraged to do sajda to shukr. And the way I will do sajda to shukr is just the same way that we just spoke about sajda to tilawa. The way to perform it. You perform it the prayer. Unlike the other one. I can perform it within the prayer. But this one I can only perform it where? Inside the prayer. If I perform sajda to shukr, fi dakhil salah, inside the prayer, is my prayer valid? Shafii. Why? I've added a third strange component in the prayer. And my prayer is invalid. So what is the legal status? What is the hukum of sajda to shukr? What is the ruling? What is the ruling of sajda to sahwa? Sunnah. What is the ruling of sajda to tilawa? Sunnah. What is the ruling of sajda to shukr? Sunnah. Inshallah wajib. According to the application of our own life, if I say something good, but I cannot make it in the sense that, okay, wajib according to my own want. I want to make it the personal choice, but not deen, personal practice. A sudden something good happened. You get a call, mashallah, congratulations, you got the job. Mashallah, congratulations, so and so got such and such. Oh, there was something that was supposed. Mashallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you to avoid. Alhamdulillah. In good, alhamdulillah, in that which we think it's not good. Right? Whether this thing can be individual, meaning it's only for me, it's only for you, it's only for you, it's only for you. I can make it. Or I do something good. Oh, mashallah, so and so got this job. So and so got this. Or so and so got married. Alhamdulillah, you make sujood for them. Because it's still something that makes an individual happy. And it's worth thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. Right? Now, not applicability. So the longer books of fiqh talk about, like, if you see somebody who is publicly doing fahisha, publicly, they have no shame. And we know what immoralities are. So at that moment, so the books of fiqh, they say, you make the sujood so you remind them to stop it. Or for your own self too. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect me from such. Ya Satar, Allah ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not expose us. Okay? We have health, meaning that. But this every single time I have to make sujood to shukr. It doesn't have to be only when you hear. Every single time. We have good health, alhamdulillah. We have good health physically and spiritually, inshallah. And we're working towards bettering the health. Right? Both the physical and especially the spiritual. And that is now sajda to shukr, and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to reach that far. That by itself is shukr. Alright? That by itself is shukr. One of the saints they used to say is that our shukr requires another shukr. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables us to do shukr, then we will never able to thank Him. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says, Ya Allah, I'm not able to thank you that which you deserve. Now, questions. We have 3 minutes, and then we're going to go to Sahih Muslim, which is going to be inshallah in the courtyard. Okay? Yeah, inshallah we'll pick our shares with us. Inshallah. Not a problem. Yes, 7:30 until Maghrib. So now it's 7:22. We have 3 minutes here. So no, because we said you make this sujood It's the same condition as the one in prayer. Meaning, you have to be in the same condition of the prayer. Yes. Great question, mashallah. I say great question. It does. Oh. Raka, you made raka 5. Purposely, your salah is battle. Your salah is invalid. She say, ask a question. Is raka? Now I'm explaining. She did not. She did not specify. Yes. You think you made 5? Instead of 4? Knowingly or knowingly? Mistakenly? Yes. Huh? In the Shafis, we only make the sajda to sahwi in one place. After tashahhud, before salam. Only once. Whether you add, whether you subtract, whether you make an addition, or the different scenarios, it doesn't matter. I know the Malikis, they have, if you maybe have an addition, it's either outside or we don't have none of that. The Hanafis, they have one standard, out, sahu, tashahud, salam, salam. For us, it's one. Tahiyyat, mashallah, done. Sujood, get up, assalamu alaikum. Simple. No, it doesn't matter. Ziyada, all simple. After tashahud, before salam. Yes. No. No, same one place. Any other questions? So next week, bi'idhnillah, I don't know. We're either gonna do Jumu'ah or Salatul Eid. What do you guys want? Jumu'ah. Salatul Jumu'ah? Huh? Inshallah. People prefer Jumu'ah or Eid. We're gonna do anyway, but Jumu'ah. Okay, next week we're gonna do Salatul Jumu'ah. Bi'idhnillah.
By the way, just so you know, on the live stream, when you move, the audio cuts off frequently.
Oh.
So it's like
Today?
Yeah, I was listening. It's like on, off, on, off.
Or maybe because of the thing.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. I apologize for the on-off.
Oh, where is this stream? YouTube? On YouTube.
YouTube, yes.
What's the channel?
وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله. Okay, if we can kindly is the right word, kindly.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. My apologies, I was having some technical issues with my laptop. But today, inshallah, we're going to talk about and we're going to discuss the last hadith, right? So we had the hadith, قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى وحدثنا إسحاق بن إبراهيم وقال أخبرنا عبد الله بن الحارث المخزومي عن ابن جريج قال أخبرني أبو الزبير أنه سمع جابر ابن عبد الله يقول قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم غلظ القلوب والجفاء في المشرق والإيمان في أهل الحجاز. He says, so the harshness and the hardness of the hearts and dryness are from the people of the east. والإيمان في أهل الحجاز. And we said, but the iman is in the people of Hijaz. Why did this hadith stand out? All the other hadiths are talking about Yemen. Then all of a sudden, Imam Muslim, he includes this hadith from Ahl Hijaz. So what I wanted to do today, I wanted to take this actually as an opportunity to look at a particular isnad and see how muhaddithin dealt with some of the asanid. So today is going to be a little bit of a case study on how we deal with different asanid and what was it that Imam Muslim actually intended here. Did he intend that this hadith is actually problematic and there's a weakness to it? Can we close that door, please? Or otherwise. So the first thing I want you guys to do is here's basically the takhrij of the hadith. I know it's a little bit difficult to see. It's probably very challenging for most of you. But what I want you to look at here is here's Abu Zubair, right? So Abu Zubair, and this is who? This is Jabir ibn Abdullah. So Jabir ibn Abdullah is the one who actually narrates this hadith. We have multiple places where this is narrated. So you have Sulaiman ibn Qaysh al-Yashkuri, and then you have Talha ibn Nafi', and then you'll see where it's narrated. So where's our chain? Our chain is going here, right? This is Imam Muslim's chain. Are you guys following? All right. If you want me to stop at any point, just let me know. And then you have a number of other chains, right? So you have Ibn Hibban, he also narrates it, and you have Ahmad ibn Hanbal. What's interesting here is that Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he narrates it here in his, here it's in his Musnad, right? Over here it's in his Musnad. This narration is also in his Musnad, and this narration is also in his Musnad. So he has three different narrations, right? There are three different chains that he brings, and Imam Ahmad's Musnad is organized how? By companions. Ahsant. So if I wanted to find these three hadith, where would I look? Under Jabir, right? So I would have to go to Musnad Jabir, and I would find all of the hadith that are narrated by Jabir. Then you have Imam al-Tabarani, he narrates his hadith as well. Imam al-Tabarani, there's a couple places that we have him, I believe we have it here, and I think it's the last one here too. Yes, it is. So over here you have Imam al-Tabarani, over here you have Imam al-Tabarani, and he narrates the narration here in his Awsat. And we had mentioned before, I don't know if you guys remember, I'm probably boring you already. Imam al-Tabarani, what is unique about his Awsat versus other scholars? We said that him and Imam al-Daraqutni were imams in which hadithi science? Not in ilal. Well, Imam al-Daraqutni la shak fi. That he was an imam in ilal, but he was also an imam in this particular hadith science. التفرد والغرائب. So basically, anytime you had unique narrations, what Imam al-Tabarani actually did is he compiled his Awsat, right? Which is the narration here in the corner that's hidden by the member. That's how unique it is, right? It's hidden. So like you have Imam al-Tabarani, he mentions this hadith. And the second book that we would utilize to find this tafarrudat and these unique narrations would be in Imam Daraqutni's book. It's called Al-Gharaib. Al-Gharaib wal-Afrad. So these are the two major works that you would look at. You would look at Al-Awsat and Al-Gharaib wal-Afrad. And then they would help you determine if this chain was particularly unique. So we're going to look at this chain from a number of different angles, and I want you guys to follow with me. If you do have any issues or you feel like you're getting a little lost in the sauce, it's okay. Just raise your hand, I'll stop, and I'll go back again. I understand that there's a lot to follow here. And I know that there's a lot that's going on here. So there are a few issues with this hadith. And what are some of the things that we should look for or we could look at in determining this hadith? Yes. Right, so the matan, this is the matan was the first thing that caused what? Right, the doubt. So there's a red flag came up immediately as we saw the text of the hadith. Why? Because the text was right. It was different. It was different than all you like. You have all of these ahadith that Imam Muslim's painstakingly. What did he do? Not just collected them. He brought corroborating chains. Right? Is it possible that he mentioned the single hadith about Yemen and then mentioned this hadith immediately afterward and be done with the bab? He could have, right? But there's a purpose and there's a lesson that he has here that he's trying to tell us, right? So if he's bringing how many hadith is it? It's like about 10 or so, right? In the hadith cluster, I would say maybe between 10 and 12 hadith that he's bringing. All of them are talking about Ahl Yemen, yani Iman fil Yemen, Al-Hikmah Yamaniya, like, Iman is in Yemen and wisdom is in Yemen and all this. And all of a sudden he brings a singular hadith, the singular narration where he says Al-Iman fi Ahl Hijaz, that Iman is in the people of Hijaz. So there are a few things. That was the first red flag that we looked at. Now, as somebody who's studying the chains, what is the next step, and what is the next? What would be the rational next step that I take? Right. So I have to start looking at the chain. Right. So I look at the chain. Why am I looking at the chains? Right. All right. Now I'm actually looking into the narrators. Right, I'm looking into the individual narrators, and what happens here is, like, I know that, again, like I said, I know there's a lot going on, but there's something that we're looking for when we deal with a hadith that is called the madar. Yes. Yeah. So the meeting point, right? So this is in English. Basically the English speaking hadith critics, or the ones who work in English, they call the madar, which would be these three individuals, these are called the common links. Right? These are called the common links. What are the common links? Meaning that the hadith is basically stemming from them. Right? This one you can actually move down to Amish. Right? You can move it down a little bit further. Because he's the common link there before it breaks off into three other supporting narrators. So let's look at these narrators now. There's a couple things that we could look at. I think this thing is too far up. Okay. So there are a few things we're going to look at. The first thing that we're going to look at is here the mukhtalitin. Mukhtalit is someone who what? Right? These are individuals, and not necessarily that they mix things up, but something happened, right? So either, which is one of the things that you're mentioning, either they confuse narrations, or what happens is that they become weak at some point in their narrating history, right? So part of their narration is that you have individuals who go that, and what shows up, right? So now you have a few people that are mukhtalit, meaning that there's a possibility that they narrated it when. Right, that they narrated after that they changed. Right, they narrated after they changed. And what do you have here? You have Ishaq ibn Ibrahim al-Handali, right? And he narrates it to Imam Muslim. There's a problem that's showing up here. Abdullah ibn Lahiya, very controversial narrator, extremely controversial narrator. You'll find that not only do we have a problem with the ikhtilat, we have another problem which will come immediately after this one, which will bring a few more red flags. So over here you have two of the narrators who are narrating to Amish, also, or some, yes, the color signifying the mukhtalit, right? So these color, I'm sorry, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so these are the narrators that are showing up to be problematic immediately, right? So this is the first stage, and all we're just looking superficially right now, right? We haven't even gone into Jarh wa Ta'dil, we haven't looked at what the different scholars have said about them. The second thing I want you guys to look at here are the mudallisin, and what happens. Right, so we have a number of problems. The Jabir ibn Abdullah, he was just highlighted here. He's a companion, so he was not a mudallis. Huh? Or you could say any tadlis sahaba al-maqbula. But regardless, that's not the idea here. So over here, the problem is Abu Zubair, who is our person of interest, right? He's our narrator of interest. The problem over here is what? You have two mudallisin in a row, right? And now over here you might be like, okay, well, we haven't really talked about this chain yet, right? Imam Ahmad's chain. Well, we do have a problem here too. Ja'far ibn Iyas lam yasma' min Sulaiman ibn Qais. He never heard from him. So what have we effectively done with all three of these, with these three main chains? Right? We've shown that, okay, there's some problems that are here. This chain we can reject, right? Like we don't have to do much more exploration into it. The middle chain, because we said that Ja'far, he never heard from Sulaiman. All right, Ja'far never heard from Sulaiman. So this chain we can reject. Over here you have problems with tadlis, right? You have either problems with tadlis and ikhtilat, right? Yes. No, not necessarily. So the thing is, there was actually a study that was done in Imam Ahmad's Musnad. A lot of them, it depends, right? So if you have issues that have to do with like halal and haram, this is something that is generally agreed upon, that those are the ones where they would take harsher stances, and that they would actually be more precise in their ruling on it. But if you said like over here al-iman fi Al-Hijaz, is there a ruling that I can extract from that? No, not really. So him, at the least, you might say, okay, it's something that he'll be like, okay, this is, I can include this in what? Fala al-Hijaz, right? So if this is a virtue of Al-Hijaz, is there khair in the companions? Right, so you have other hadith to show that there's good in the companions, and there's good from the Ansar and the Muhajirin, and they are from Ahl Hijaz, خلاص مشي, right? فيهم بركة. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's why you won't have the same type of rigorous investigation when it comes to such a hadith. What was the other thing we talked about? So over here we said that Ja'far, he never heard from Sulaiman, so this becomes an issue for this narration. And the last thing, what do we do now, is now we have to look more into Abu Zubair. Did he actually hear from Jabir or not? But there's a problem. Go back to the chain. What does it say? أخبرني أنه سمع. So over here he did tasrih bis-sama'. What is a possibility? Possibility is from that Ibn Jurayj, he was mistaken. Right? Because if we say that he has issues with tadlis, how does he narrate? An. Right? So he does anana. He says on the authority of. So here, now that we have Ibn Jurayj saying on the authority of, is it possible that he made a mistake when he narrated from... So, because sighat al-ada, like how a hadith is carried from narrator to narrator, is it possibility that that he made a mistake there because he didn't hear it directly from Abu Zubair? It's possible. And Ibn Lahiya, he's problematic as it is, right? Like, there's a huge question mark over Ibn Lahiya on how he actually got this hadith in the way that he would narrate it. Yes. Yes, this is all for the Ahl Hijaz wording, right? So they all go back to Jabir. There's no other companion that narrates it with this wording, right? So it's just on Jabir. Tayyib. And like I said, this is not even an in-depth analysis, right? Like we didn't look into where the narrators were. We didn't look, is it possible that there's corroboration that was here, right? Because what are the possibilities of multiple people making the same mistake, right? These are a lot of things that deserve a lot more explanation. But because you have so many blanks that are here, right? You have so many gaps in the chain, it doesn't become an issue of, is it a possibility that they made a mistake? Is it possible that in this stage here, right here, that there is a common link that was mistaken? I want you guys to hear that again. So is it possible that you have 1, 2, 3 people making a mistake on Jabir? No, right? It's difficult, right? The chances of that happening are little. But I'm saying, and my response to this is, we already know that here we have a break, yes? Over here there's a possible break. Over here there's a possible break. And over here there's also a possible break, correct? Is it possible that we have at this level here an intermediary that is shared that made a mistake? Right? Because the possibility of a gap existing, it's possible that there's a gap that exists between these people and that they share that common narrator, right? So the madar wouldn't actually be these three. The madar would be what? It would be a third party altogether. Right? So the common link could be a third party altogether. Yes? It's a possibility, right? It's a definite possibility. Why? Because all of these individuals that we've pointed out, over here there's a clear gap, right? This one, we know for sure that Ja'far never heard from Sulaiman. He never studied with him, he never heard from him, he doesn't have any hadith on him. The problem that we have in these is that we know these narrators to be mudallisin. Wa alaikum salam. These narrators, that they will remove intermediaries. They will remove intermediaries using on the authority of. So now that you have people that you know that will remove these intermediaries, is it possible that they all have a shared intermediary? Right? That possibility all of a sudden becomes real. Yes. So the problem is because you can't verify who the unknown person is, unless you find other parallel narrations that say that they have sigat al-tahdith all the way to the top, right? حدثنا حدثنا سمع أخبرنا, right? You know what I mean? None of that, if there's no use of an, and you find that I heard, I listened to, I read upon, right? You have this in the entire chain. All of a sudden, I'll be like, oh, no, I have a corroborating report here. Over here, he said on the authority of, but from this narration, I can actually prove that what? That he heard him, right? And that this is something that he heard directly. But without that chain, which doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist here. Like we don't have, these are all of the chains that we have. And because that third chain doesn't exist to prove any of that, I have nothing to go and search. Like, who am I going to search for now? I can guess, but I can also be very wrong. Because the thing is, okay, yes, there is a common sheikh that's possible, and he's there. All right, I don't have any information about him. How can I make a ruling on the hadith? And even if I assume that they all have a common sheikh, is it necessary that he's the one that narrated it? You understand? Like the possibility for those things. This is why many of the scholars, many of the muhaddithin and nuqad, if there's a chance of like a jahalat rawi, that's a reason enough for them to say that okay, no, this is not, it can't be used. This is not something that can be relied upon. طيب. So now I want to spend time on Abu Zubair. Abu Zubair, yes, allegedly he's a tabi'i, right? So over here you have Abdul Aziz ibn Sa'ad al-Dughaythir. He actually has a entire research that he put together on Abu Zubair. So, it's like he's a doctor, right? So he's like, yeah, right. So he put this together. I'm scared to try. Should I hit translate? What's going to happen, right? I'm just curious what would happen. So these are some of the things that we're going to look at. He is considered a tabi'i. Some of the companions, it's reported that he's narrated on, include Aisha, include Abdullah ibn Abbas, include Abdullah ibn Umar, include Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, include Abdullah ibn Zubair, include Abu Tufail, include Jabir ibn Abdullah, which are probably like, I think, 2 ahadith. And then we have, and I believe that's the last one that is mentioned. Some of his students, Ata ibn Abi Rabah, Imam al-Zuhri, Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani, A'mash ibn Jurayj, Malik, Hushaym, and Thawri. So he not only has, like, he has big teachers, right? Like, I mean, sorry, big students. Many major students narrated from him. Some of what has been said about him is that you have a number of scholars that praise him. You say, Suduq hujja fil ahkam. So one of the things that they said about him is that he's truthful and he is a proof in ahkam. So if he narrates something in ahkam, then you take it as a proof. Many scholars relied upon him. Malik uses him in his Muwatta. And we know that Malik, he only narrates from thiqat. Ijli said he was also thiqa. Ibn Hajar and Al-Dhahabi, I believe, Ibn Hajar, he says he's Suduq. Al-Dhahabi, I believe he just uses Abu Hatim's kalam. So over here we have a number of scholars. You have 7 scholars here who say that he has some type of weakness. And again, this is meant to be a case study of actually looking at narrators and how it is that we deal with them. We talked about this theoretically in the Ulum al-Hadith class, but now this is a practical example of how this is to be implemented. So the first one, we have Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani. Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani, well-known scholar, well-known imam. He says, فَقَدْ كَانَ إِذَا رَوَى عَنْهُ قَالَ حَدَّثْنَا أَبُو زُبَيْرَ وَأَبُو زُبَيْرَ أَبُو زُبَيْرَ. He says that I heard from or I heard from Abu Zubair, Abu Zubair, Abu Zubair. What does that mean? Is he saying it because he's like man, he's equivalent to three men, right? He's expressing his disapproval, and or not just that. When we repeat it, when someone says to me, is like, hey, I haven't seen Khalid. Have you seen him around? Khalid, Khalid, Khalid. I mean, that's a little bit different, right? But when we repeat someone's name, is it like out of like because it's positive? Because like Khalid is equal to three Khalids. No, no, that's not what it means. So over here, this is a sign of weakness, right? So this is why he's included him in this list. قال أحمد كأنه يضعف بذلك. So even Imam Ahmed, he says that it's a sign of, at the most, like so, at the best, we can say that it's a sign of disapproval, right? So even if you say that it's not weak, it's something that he's a disapproving of him as a specific narrator. وقال ابن حجر much later, right? ولما ذكر الترمذي رواية سفيان عن أيوب حمله على أنه عنا حفظه وإتقانه. So he says that Imam al-Tirmidhi, when he mentions this narration on Ayyub, he says that this means that he's talking about his hifz and his itqan. So he talks about his memory and his precision. Yeah, huh? No, not necessarily old age. Some people just don't have good memory, right? And over here it says وقد رواه ابن عدي من طريقه وزاد قال سفيان بيده يضعفه. And he's like, so they used to do this, right? It was very common for hadith critics, nuqad of the past, when they were asked about people, sometimes they'd be like, and that means what? It's like, no. It's again, at the best, it's a sign of disapproval. So over here, the researcher, he's saying that وهذا جرح محتمل لم يفسر سبب الجرح فلا يناقض من عنايته أو من عدله. I'm sorry. So over here, he's saying that there's still a possibility that all of these things, because they have multiple meanings, that he's still what? An accepted narrator. It's a little bit of so when we get to the end, you'll see some of the holes of the research, and this is something I want to spend a little bit of time with. Yes. Sure, it could be. No. So yeah. So they're saying over here that even if you have these individuals who are disappointed of him, it doesn't necessarily take away from his adala, and he's still an acceptable narrator. Like for him, he's saying that it's not necessary that they mean that he is weak. But let's the only way for us to really understand, and we had talked about this, like al-fadl jarh ta'dil, when it came to issues of like how you actually disparage or criticize narrators, it's very important for us to understand and look at context. And what are those things that we can look at context? We can look at the entire story, right? So we look at the best way to do it is to see how other scholars understood it, because it's not explicit. Because the thing is, like, different cultures deal with something in different ways. So, for example, in some cultures, like I think, what is it, during the gladiator times, like if they did this or this, right? One was, I think this was like death or something. So, it means something different to us, right? It means good, right? It means okay. But again, let's look up more. So we have Ibn Uyayna, yani Sufyan ibn Uyayna, again another great imam. فقد قال نعيم بن حماد سمعت ابن عيينة يقول حدثنا أبو زبير وهو أبو زبير. So he says that he's like, and I heard Abu Zubair say, and he is Abu Zubair, right? So again, this is not a praiseworthy way of dealing with him. وهذا أيضا غير صريح. But he's saying here that this still isn't a clear jarh. This isn't a clear criticism of him. He says here, Ibn Uyayna, he says in another place, كان أبو زبير عندنا بمنزلة خبز الشعير إذا لم نجد عمر ibn Dinar ذهبنا إليه. So he was like, this is a what is it, wheat bread? Sure, shayir, right? It's like wheat bread, and wheat bread is not something that is preferred. Any meaning that he was like a secondary, like he's a lesser quality type of lesser quality choice. Yeah, oh, barley. Ahsant. Jazakallah khair. So it's like barley bread. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's rougher, it's not as tasty, it dries out your mouth, and it's like a secondary type of choice. وهذا يدل على أنه لا يضعف بل يفضل ابن دينار عليه. He's saying that, well, this is not a proof again of his weakness. It just shows that Ibn Dinar was considered a better narrator. وقال أيضا ما تنازع أبو زبير وعمر بن دينار قط عن جابر إلا زاد عليه الزبير وهذا محتمل لأن يكون الثناء عليه وقد يكون أراد القدح في قوة حفظه. So over here is saying that Amr ibn Dinar and Abu Zubair, they did not differ over anything concerning Jabir except that Ibn Zubair would mention more, right? So he would have more narrations on him. And again, a lot of these things are muhtamal, right? There's no clear ruling that he comes to. قال أبو حاتم فقد سأله ابنه عن أبي الزبير فقال يكتب حديثه ولا يحتج به. He says write down his hadith but don't use them as a proof. وهو أحب إلي من سفيان, and that he is more beloved to me than Sufyan. I don't know which Sufyan he's referring to. Abu Zur'a, again, this is another great hadith critic. فقد سأله ابن أبي حاتم عن أبي الزبير فقال روى عنه الناس. Says that a number of people narrated from him. قلت يحتج بحديثه. Says it's like, should his hadith be relied upon? قال إنما يحتج بحديث ثقات. He says that you should rely on the hadith of those who are reliable. قال الشافعي الشافعي I don't know. Maybe he's not Shafi. فقد قال عندما احتج عليه رجل بحديث عن أبي الزبير فقال أبو زبير يحتاج إلى دعامة. He says that Abu Zubair needs support. Abu Zubair needs support. Meaning that his lone narrations are not to be relied upon. So Imam Shafi was actually known to be very kind when it came to hadith criticism. He wasn't as harsh as some of the other ones, like, hey, what do you think about Abu Zubair? Right? Allah المستعان. إمام البخاري فقد ذكر الذهبي في السير عنه أنه قال لا يحتج به. So you don't have a direct quote from Imam Bukhari, but Imam al-Dhahabi, he brings a quote from him saying that Imam Bukhari says لا يحتج به, that he is not to be relied upon. وقد أخرج له البخاري في صحيحه مقرونا بغيره وأخرج له تعليقا. So over here, this is also very telling. Imam Bukhari uses Abu Zubair twice in his Sahih. One time he uses him, but he brings another chain in parallel. Why? To support it. And there are some hadith that Imam Bukhari uses outside of Abu Zubair where he will rely on that hadith alone. So there are only two places he uses it. One, he uses it as support, and one, he uses it ta'liqan. Ta'liq meaning that he doesn't bring the entire chain. And when Imam Bukhari doesn't bring the entire chain in Sahih, it is not up to his standard. Huh? Yeah, of course, man. Come on. If that's the strongest hadith, if that's the strongest hadith you got, man, go ahead. Yes, he does. There are actually a number of places where you'll find him using parallel chains, or like every time this person is in the chain, you'll find him using it in parallel. You won't find him using it alone. Or if you do find it using it alone, it'll be here. It'll be like mu'allaq. It'll be an incomplete chain. Shu'bah. Now Shu'bah was known to be harsh, so this should be interesting. فقد نقل العقيلي أنه قال ما كان أحد أحب إلي أن ألقيه من أبي الزبير. He says that there's no one more beloved that I should meet except Abu Zubair حتى لقيته, until I met him. ثم سكت, and then he was quiet. Then he got quiet. أما أسباب ترك شعبة لأبي زبير فأربع أسباب هي. So he says that the reasons that Abu Zubair was abandoned by Shu'bah were four. أنه يرجح في الوزن فقد سأله ورقاء فقال لما تركت حديث أبي زبير قال رأيته يزن ويسترجح في الميزان. Ooh. So he says that I didn't narrate from Abu Zubair because he used to play with the scales. Oh yeah, Oh, big time. افتراء that's different. افتراءه على رجل مسلم حال غضبه فقد روى أبو داود عن شعبة قال لم يكن شيء أحب إلي من رجل يقدم من مكة فأسأله عن أبي الزبير. So he says that again there's nothing more beloved to me than ask about someone when they came from Mecca so that I could ask him about Abu Zubair. قال فقدمت مكة so I came to Mecca فسمعت من أبي الزبير فبين أنا عنده إذ سأله رجل عن مسألة فرد عليه فافترى. So he said that I was there, I was sitting, and somebody asked Abu Zubair a question, and then Abu Zubair, he got angry, and he answered him in a harsh way. فافترى عليه فقلت تفتري يا أبو الزبير. He's like, well, why are you going to extremes, Abu Zubair? على رجل مسلم, over this person who was Muslim. فقال إنه أغضبني. He said, he made me angry. قلت ومن يغضبك تفتري عليه. He says, so whoever gets angry at you, you're going to like be harsh with him and be extreme with him. لا رويت لك أبدا. He said, لا رويت لك أبدا. He's like, I will never narrate on you. فكان شعبة يقول في صدري لأبي الزبير 400 حديث. And he said, I had by that time memorized 400 hadith from Abu Zubair. He said, but I refused to narrate them. لأنه رأى يسيء في صلاته. He said, and another time he saw him not praying properly. فقد قيل لشعبة. So it was said to شعبة لما تركت أبو الزبير. He said, why did you stop narrating from Abu Zubair? قال رأيته يسيء الصلاة فتركت الرواية عنه. So he said that I saw him praying poorly, so I stopped narrating from him. Huh? I'm sorry? Yeah, well, the thing is, if you have a high standard for prayer, right? That's another thing. If you personally have a very high standard, it's like, well, why isn't he making at least 10, 10 tasbihat, and every time he's changing his position, right? So that this last one can be very subjective. I think the other ones, for me, are pretty strong. The mizan one. تفضلوا أذن.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول
All right, so I'm going to go very quickly through the list of narrators. I mean, the list of critics that said he was a mudallis. So over here you have Ibn Qattan, Sa'id ibn Qattan, very well known. Ahmed ibn Hanbal, both of these very like huge critics, and they said that if Abu Zubair does not say حدثنا Jabir and he says an Jabir, فبينهما خلاف. He's like there's like a huge gap between them. There's a huge gap between them. قال النسائي. Nasai also known to be a very poignant critic. He says ذكر المدلسين الحجاج بن أرطاط والحسن وقتادة وأبو زبير. So is another one that mentions that. Alai also, Hafiz Alai, well known. Muhammad ibn Muslim, Abu Zubair al-Makki, mashhur bit-tadlis. So over here he says that his name was Muhammad ibn Muslim, Abu Zubair. He is from Mecca and he was known to be a mudallis. The rest of them, so you have Ibn Hazm, Ibn Hajar, Al-Dhahabi, like, I don't know, he has like, these are the orders are out. And Ibn Abdul Hadi, all of these in Abdul Haq. From, I would say from here onward, from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, these aren't nuqad, these are what we call nuqal. Alright? So a naqid is a critic, a naqil is somebody who quotes those critics. Okay? So then basically they all agreed with those who were before them. The other issue is that he was a tabi, so tadlis, it's not meant to be something that is negative, right? It's not, so don't look at it as something that's negative. Even we do it in our daily lives very often. Basically, we can say it like the sheikh said, or so and so said, without ever having met them, right? Like we'll hear it from a third party, or sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 people between us and them. It's a very human thing, right? It's a very human thing. This only became a problem when. Well, even around the fabrication, you're very close. But after Maqtal, Uthman, right? So after Uthman radiallahu anhu was killed, you had the rise of. Yeah, you had the rise of Khawarij, Shia, right? You had people who had personal interest in trying to get close to the Sultan. So now that you had these secondary interests in there, at that point it became very important to what? To see who that missing gap was, to see who the intermediary was. But before that, it was very natural. It wasn't normal. Like they didn't even you have companions say ma kunna nasal an isnad. Like we never used to ask about the isnad before. If somebody told us that, we would listen to him. He said, but then after the fitna came, after the fitna happened, we'd be like, Samu rijalikum, like name us your men. Tell us who these intermediaries are, so that we can determine that. And that's where the science and the chain of narration came about. So that's what his discussion is here. He's like, it's not really that big a deal. So he says another thing is that Imam Bukhari and Muslim, they use him in his Sahih. Therefore, so the problem is like he does a little bit of back projecting. He basically is saying, as a researcher, that hey, well, Bukhari and Muslim use him in his Sahih, therefore, he is what? Then he's reliable. طيب. Based on what we're reading, what do you guys think? I don't agree. I don't agree with his ruling. And the reasons are very clear. The jarh that's on him is very clear, right? There's no doubt about that. And even the use in Bukhari and Muslim is very, right? The way that he's being used, it's not a positive way, right? It's not being used in a positive way. So Imam Bukhari, he brings him maqroon or mu'allaqan, and Imam Muslim, where does he bring him? He brings him at the end of the hadith cluster, right? He brings them at the end of the hadith cluster that is actually going against all of the previous ones. I'm sorry? The Hijaz one, I think is problematic. I think based on what we're reading and what we're looking at, I think it's problematic. No. So Imam Muslim, like you said, and this is probably a pattern that we're going to catch on and we're going to see, inshallah, is that anytime he brings a unique report, like at the end of these hadith clusters, then it's usually him showing that there's a problem in that chain. And Allah knows best. But we'll inshallah continue next week. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin nabina Muhammad wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. Sorry, I know class took a little direction today, but I thought it was very important to at least have like an introductory discussion of how do we look at asanid? Like what does isnad look like? How do we do takhrij? And I showed you guys some of the tools that are available there and some of the research that's out there, right? So people do this research and it's out there, and it's open to critique. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like we said, with the researcher, you can see his bias, right? So the bias actually becomes pretty clear because he goes on, actually has this huge discussion of what. Look what he does here. Manzilat Sahih Muslim. He looks at the status of Sahih Muslim. Why do you think he has that discussion? Yeah, so he uses that as a strengthening, like as a way to strengthen his argument that this all the narrators, and he doesn't say it, but because he mentions, he's like, it doesn't mean all the narrators in Sahih Muslim are thiqah, but he is mentioned in it, right? So, and Allah knows best. وصلى الله على خير خلق نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. استووا تقاربوا واعتدلوا سدوا الخلل ولا تختلفوا فتختلف قلوبكم. حاذوا بين المناكب والأقدام. أتموا الصف الأول فالأول. الله أكبر. بين المشرق والمغرب. إني من الخطايا